Hi everyone, welcome to the 16th episode of Concussion Chats. My name is Taya. Concussion Chats is a podcast hosted by the McGill students for the Concussion Legacy Foundation with the help of Nick from Concussion Talk podcast. We're dedicated to providing strength and hope to those suffering from concussions through sharing experiences. Today I have a recording of our speaker, Laura. Laura has been playing basketball since she was 10. While playing basketball, she has suffered 3 concussions. While sometimes it has been tough, there's always a bright side, she says.
Yeah, hi everybody. As Taya said, thank you. My name is Laura. I go by she, her. Just a quick background. I'm from Latvia, a country in Europe. I came to Canada 4 years ago to study and play basketball. And 2 years ago, now more than 2 years ago, I got my first concussion. It was in a basketball game. I got elbowed to my eyebrow, went to hospital, got some stitches. And at that time, they warned me, you may have a concussion, but then I didn't know, nobody back home talked about it. I thought it's only a hockey player thing. And so when I first started noticing all the symptoms, it was very weird, all the smell and noise, I wouldn't really understand what did it mean. But I was able to recover in 2 weeks, as they usually say. So I thought that's how it usually goes until my second concussion, which happened last year in September, not last year, 2019. And it was another game. And I just slightly got touched. It was actually just a touch and nothing else. And at that point, I didn't, again, think about it much but I still immediately started feeling weird. But I didn't think you can get concussion just from somebody touching you and touching your head. And but next day I woke up, I had all the headaches, nausea, just weakness. And but again, I thought 2 weeks, okay, I'm gonna be back. So nothing much. Started biking, everything was going well. And as an athlete, you have to go through the return to play biking process. So I was able to do that until the last session, which is like a bike interval, and you have to get high in a heart rate. And I wasn't able to do it. My heart rate started to jumping, my ox pulse dropped, and just started feeling sick. And then we stopped. And after that session, I never really felt good again for a couple of months. And the first month after that, I was just basically in my room because all my symptoms got worse, even how it was after the second concussion. And my pulse box was always in low 90s when it's supposed to be in high 90s. And just my heart rate was bouncing around and wasn't really able to study. So I was just basically at home doing nothing. And and then I started biking because that's how they always said that you have to do some activity. So I started biking with an oxygen mask on, and after a month it started getting better. My pulse box got better, and heart rate was not jumping anymore just from standing up. And I thought that it's going to get better, but I still had some symptoms and still was not feeling very good. And went home, saw some doctors there, spent 3 days in a hospital and with neurologist. And then she said, you're fine. Maybe it's just something in your head that you cannot get over. And I was like, maybe. So I went back, and I always had this goal because we were a good team that year, and I wanted to play, and we wanted to compete in national championship game. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. And then after a month, I was playing a basketball game again, and it was 5 months after my concussion, I think. Probably wasn't the smartest decision because I was basically just pushing through both mentally and physically. And it was finally done, and like it was a very tough month for me to just be back, because like after a game I needed a week to recover, and just mentally I was somewhere else and didn't want to be there. And but it was done. We didn't win. Went home, and there was no pressure, nothing. I didn't have like school was done, so I was able to just rest and no pressure. And I started slowly getting better. Uh, I was still feeling constant headaches, but overall I was started feeling better, and I wanted to actually start picking basketball, because after the season ended, like basketball was something I didn't want to think about. But then I started picking up basketball, and I thought maybe I could play again. And I did. I came back again this year. Was very excited about basketball, and I knew there's COVID, so our playing was not yet decided what's going to happen. But I had like these all large goals to like take the hardest classes, go for hikes every weekend, because mountains are right here and weekends are off. And in my third practice back, I didn't see a pass coming, and I just got smacked on my right side again. And I knew right away that it's on concussion. So I was pretty devastated, especially after like setting these like goals and plans for myself, that like I knew like I was stuck again in my bed for a long time. And it's now been 5.5 months after that concussion. And the first months were really tough. Like I was having constant headaches, feeling nauseous, my anxiety picked up, just all the sensitivities to light and noises and even smell. Like it was all really bothering me. And I was just not okay with having concussion. I didn't want to accept it. I was feeling sorry for myself. I was mad at the person who hit me with the ball, and just so many negative thoughts. And my great grandma passed away too in that time period, and I wasn't home with my family, so that hit hard too. And I started overeating, started eating very unhealthy, and just didn't see anything good. And then after my great grandma passed away, I think that was the hardest point, and I couldn't sleep anymore. For 2 months, I was up most of the night, just thinking a lot and staring in the ceiling. And then I decided that I can't stop being so negative and just suffering what I have, like seeing the good side of what happened. And because I don't know, I always set these high goals, that I started to see that I can accomplish them in different ways. Like maybe it's not taking the hardest class, but still doing some things. Like I was able to study for 30 minutes, and I started appreciating it. Started like even reading for 10 minutes was big for me. So doing that was good. And I started doing those things that I like. I started walking, and walking has become my favorite thing, because that's the most activity I basically get. And then I just started accepting that maybe it's gonna be like this for a while, and those headaches gonna be there, and just trying to be okay with it, while I was still wasn't really okay. That's how they say, like the saying goes, be okay with not being okay. And I started being okay that I wake up with the headache, and just not hoping to not wake up with a headache. I was just, okay, you have a headache, and let's see what we can do with the headache. And if it's 30 minutes of studying and half an hour and a half of just rest, okay, I'm just going to enjoy the 30 minutes of studying. And I became really in the moment, present and focused. If I study for those 30 minutes, that's the only thing I do. If I'm here talking, that's the only thing I do. And I'm not trying to be somewhere else. And of course, I struggle with it a lot because my mind is always racing somewhere. And but yeah, another thing that I picked up was not picked up, but like just seeing what we all go through. There are so many people that, and we don't see what they go through. And I think with my concussion, a lot of people didn't see it. And my closest friend actually, like, because one of my closest friends, she was with me the second and third time, and she told me that I managed my third concussion better than I did my second one, which was how she saw it. And because in my third concussion, I started putting that fake smile on and just being more positive. And if I'm spending time with them, I'm like all in and not thinking about my concussion, which is hard sometimes because it's there. But when she said it, it hurt a lot but in the same time, I understood, because if I'm putting the fake smile on, then how somebody can see it. And that's what I started doing too, like not saying everybody. And I don't think that was the best idea. So in last month and a half, when I changed my mindset, I've been talking about it more and just letting people know that concussion is a problem. And people, my friends now know that when they tell me stories where they hit their heads, they tell me because they know how much I care about it and they think about it too. So that was the empathy part. Like I feel more empathy against people and just like being there if somebody needs. And I guess last thing I wanted to touch is just, I think this concussion, I have become more thoughtful about what's happened around me, because I picked, like I'm very car sick in a car, or smells like my roommates were cooking yesterday and my head just like can't take it. And when somebody slams a cupboard, like my head is just not okay with it. So things like that, like I wouldn't usually, 2 years ago, nothing like that. I would never notice a thing that somebody slams the cupboard, but now it's just my head. And that's where I'm like, when I do something like that, I'm just very thoughtful about it. And then I just cupboard, so like little things, like even walking when somebody like needs, when you see that they need their space and I'm just walking around, like there's a lot of little things I think we can notice about other people. And yeah, just, I think the main message is like, for me, it was like just accepting, and there are good parts of it, I think, and just learning. And I don't think I would have picked up some of these things if it wasn't for concussion, and just seeing a different perspective of it, not just the bad side that we all have gone through. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Laura, for the great talk. Today I have Emily, who is also part of McGill Students for Concussion Legacy Foundation, and Nick from Concussion Talk podcast joining me. So what did you guys think about Laura's talk? I like really resonated with a lot of it, like the great grandmother part, the like just like there was so much of it where I was just like, damn. I don't know. I got a little teary while she was talking.
I was trying to let Emily talk first because to make sure she's still stay awake. So Emily, go for it.
I am trying to stay awake. I really resonated with it as well. Losing somebody while you're dealing with recovery is absolutely terrible. Losing somebody anytime is absolutely terrible. But it's like a lot to process when you're already dealing with a lot of grief of losing, your life, or different things that you identified with, and then that. But I also really resonated with her talking about one of these sort of like emotional bottoms where she's just sitting there looking up at the sky or ceiling or something like that. And that's, there's just been like some of the most intense moments of my life is when I'm just like, I'm so hopeless. But then it's kind of those waves of acceptance that happen for me in my case. And that's just kind of what it sounded like to me as she was like, okay, I got to do something about this now. It's kind of when you stop wallowing in it and you're like, all right, I'm gonna pick myself up and do this now. And I really related to that.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too, and I don't want to say it resonated with us. I say I should because you both said resonated, so it also resonated with me. And even though she's been, it's been just 2 years since hers, and for me it's been a lot longer. This will be 18 years, come August, and mine was a different injury, but like still, I like how she was talking about just the injury, the concussion, just as in not really knowing anything about it, talking about it raw, not saying that she thought about it and she examined it, but just her immediate just thought like, oh, and this will be fine in 2 weeks, and I thought that's how it worked and blah blah. And then her recovery would seem to be, there was no didn't seem directed. It seemed like her just dealing with things like as they came, which also resonated with me because I wasn't told anything, and I wasn't expected to be told anything, and she just accepted life as it came, it seemed, and I think that's showing that there's different ways to recover. There's not just this one like this needs to be planned and do this and do that and do steps 1 through 5 and then take a break or do yoga or not. I do yoga, so I make that sound bad. And like she also just said that she that she's dealt with and she came to these conclusions like her mental space at the end, but how she's just living in the moment, living in that moment to moment, but living in the current moment and living and just empathy and stuff, and her thought process is different now. The way she sees the world has changed, and that's exactly kind of how I feel. Even though it seems to be a different time, different sort of for injury in that sense, like both sports injuries, but still like different severity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I also someone at the end like asked her about like what like her like if she could write a self-help book, like what would like her steps, her process be, like what made it like so like genuine anchored and stuff. And she said that like every night before she goes to sleep, she kind of tells herself that like how I feel when I wake up is like okay, and just kind of like go with that and be okay with it. And I think being able to do that is like, that's amazing. Like that's like so amazing, and definitely would make a huge impact, like allowing yourself to be however you are when you wake up. And I think also when she was talking about the moment where like her friend was like, yeah, like you're handling this concussion a lot better than like your others, and she's like, what, like no, I'm not. And that's when she started like talking about how she was doing more. She was just kind of like flipped to just being more open and like honest with people about how she's actually doing, which like is definitely super important.
Yeah, it seems she came quickly to acceptance, just that this is life now, this is how it is, and in the morning it's could be bad, could be good, but that's what it is, that's what it is, and now I'm doing okay, and tomorrow I'm beating as well, and or like, and this happened, and just genuine acceptance of the whole situation, and not letting it really drive her too much to either extreme.
Yeah. I think that it's amazing that she is able to, accept and go through her feelings. That's such something I really struggled with after my injury. Like we've talked about in the past, I just needed it to be good. And I'm learning now how to go through my feelings. And like the one phrase that I love is like this too shall pass. It's like in those moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the worst. I feel awful. This too shall pass. Like this isn't. I'm not gonna be like this forever. I'm not gonna feel like this forever. That's one that's really helped me. But yeah, it's absolutely amazing that she was able to just start doing that.
She came to it very quickly, and of her own accord, it seemed that she just kind of realized that, or just kind of she didn't say realized, she just said, like, just kind of the way I felt like I came to it. It's kind of like what you'd think you get out of meditation, or what you get out of a certain practice, but you just kind of come to it naturally. Just come to it out your life that, like, maybe this is just what it is, and I gotta accept this, and this is, and other people have this different problems, but problems as well, and you accept that, and just maybe it's just by fluke similar outlooks on life, but maybe it's also their brain injury or the concussion that really same thing that made her think that way, that changed her brain in such a way.
I mean, I think it's also like if not like she did go through the process of like not accepting it though. Like she was talking about like her like after her like concussion, like, she was devastated. She like stayed in bed for a long time. Like she like fell into really unhealthy.
Okay, Tech, are you moving a lot, or your audio is a bit weird now? But
you're a little choppy.
She was talking about how like she went into like unhealthy habits. Her great grandmother passed away, and that was like the hardest thing for her. Like she wasn't sleeping and stuff, and then she started being able to like study for 30 minutes and read for 10, and started walking. Like walking became her like favorite thing, and just like 100% focusing on what she was doing. So it's not like she just like all of a sudden came into it with like open arms and acceptance. Like she went through her process that she needed to go through, and
she did,
which I think is important, because like I know a lot of people when we were talking were like asking her about like how she's been doing this, how but I think like obviously everyone wants to know how someone does it, but I think it's also important to acknowledge like just as much as like she's accepted it and she's living with things how they are, she also like went through that really really hard process, and like and that like it's not all easy now. Like we were talking about, someone asked if she would return to play basketball, and she said like I'd want to, but like I don't think like I could, because like first off like my family and friends are not happening, and also just like I don't think it's like a good idea. She was like, but like obviously I would want to in the future. So I mean we were talking about like loss of sport and dealing with that too, and it's, I don't know, it's easy to be like she accepted it, but you also, I think it's just as important to be like she went through like the grieving process, she went through the really deep dark shitty stuff, and she's been able to come out and have all these great like new skills of it. And she was also talking about how like if it weren't for her concussion, she wouldn't have learned some of these things, and she wouldn't see things from a different perspective. She wouldn't have so much empathy for people, and so as much as like she went through some rough stuff, she got some good stuff out of it. I think that was a good important thing to acknowledge too.
And I think also just because, sorry, Emily, go ahead.
I was just going to add on that everybody has their own process. Everybody's journey is going to be different.
That's kind of what I was going to say. It's like that, and even if you have this process you go through, it doesn't mean that you know what the process is. You just go through it, and you can't explain it simple as how, or how did this happen? How did this happen? Which often people often ask me too. I can't tell them really. I just did after, I'd say, time. So I mean, just happened to someone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it is such a hard thing to explain, and it's just something you have to walk through, and so
Trial and error.
Yeah, and I was really stubborn, you know. Some people are really stubborn, and it takes them, you know, maybe a little bit longer, or if they're younger, sometimes. But yeah, it's still like a pretty amazing journey, I think.
Yeah, and
It is.
something else that someone else had mentioned was about how like change doesn't happen in this like one swoop. It's moments. So I mean, that's kind of also what Laura was saying. Like she, like every night before she goes to bed, she tells herself, however I wake up, that's like I'm gonna be okay with it. In the morning, she reads like this quote. Like she'll read a quote from a book every morning, and she'll write things down, and she has like her morning routine and all these things in place to help with this change and this acceptance and things like that. So and I think that's really important for people to also realize is how much that's also part of the process. Like, and since no one's injury is the same, the process won't be the same for everyone, and it's really, really hard because obviously you want to help everyone, but a process that worked for her won't work for you or me, sort of thing.
Exactly.
But
It's like
tips and like stuff like sharing what's worked for you is helpful because then people can pick apart things from what's helped you and what's helped someone else, and then try those out, and maybe they'll work for them. But not having the expectations that like this one thing that worked for this one person is gonna solve everything.
Yeah, no, I think sorry, Emily, go ahead.
I think the whole like sharing experience thing is really like, it's like the definitive example of it's gonna pass and it's gonna be okay, and it just provides a bit of hope. But yeah.
Oh, and I was just gonna. Oh, sorry. Sorry to interrupt you, Emily.
I was just gonna say, go ahead, Nick.
Oh no, yeah, I was just gonna say that like the thing about like the things she just tells herself before she goes to bed, and when she reads a passage every morning or reads a line or a quote every morning. I wasn't in the conversation, so I don't really know what exactly. I can't speak for her, but I wouldn't think it's actually something that's not written in stone. That's just written. It's not like it's something that she'll do, but I just have it that's for me. It's not something you every single night you'd say, okay, it's 11:15. I have to read this quote to tell myself that it's gonna be okay tomorrow. And then when I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is open a book. It's just something that just happens. Just like you read it, you think every morning you wake up, you think I couldn't mind hearing something, reading something inspiring or listening to something inspiring, and when you go to bed, you're like, I would like to read something inspiring.
I think that's definitely what it is for her. It's like it's something that like she's been enjoying, sort of thing. I don't think it's like at 11 a.m. I have to do this particular thing, and
exactly.
I don't think it's a routine like that. I think it's more like something that has helped her, and so she continues to do it because she enjoys it and it's been helpful for her and stuff like that. That's what I think it is for sure.
That's the impression I got. Yeah.
I don't know. Go for it,
I go back and forth.
No videos fun.
I know. So I was gonna go. I go in and out of doing positive affirmations every night, and mine is like really straightforward. I'm a spiritual person, so it's kind of like the nights I remember, and I've been doing it more lately, is just take 2 seconds and be like basically like thank my higher power or the universe or whatever I'm feeling like calling it that day for my life, and then telling myself I love myself and I am enough. And it takes literally like 20 seconds maybe. But I noticed that when I do that, we talk a lot about like neurolinguistics sometimes. It's, what we say, shapes what we say to ourselves. Our self-talk changes how our brain is wired. Like just taking 20 seconds to be gentle with myself at night, like really like transfers over into my day. Like I have a harder time wallowing in my sadness and whatnot, or my like, oh, well, I have this going on with me, like the giving up feeling. I have a harder time staying in that when I keep up with these affirmations. Like I feel like I have to do something about it, like, oh, well, I know what works for me, and so I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going to do it. And that's what it is. Like every night, if I'm reminding myself that I love myself, then I have to start treating myself like I love myself. It's really a weird experience, because I notice it in my behaviors before I actually consciously am thinking that I'm taking care of myself, I don't know if that makes sense. But it's just really interesting how that works in such like a subtle way.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think that goes back to like, it's like an accumulation of a bunch of little moments that make the difference. Is you doing it like part of your routine is going to make more of a difference than if you did it once a month and just randomly. But you doing it like every night and more frequently and consistently. Like, I mean, practice makes perfect, and so the like accumulation of all these little things will make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, I've still got all those sticky notes that you wrote when I was away, like, I don't know, like 2 years ago almost. I got them all taped together in my wall. And I mean, just like little reminders and things like that made a difference. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed her talk, and I really love when she's at meetings. I really like her. She's great. And,
Has she come to the live meetings? Has she been there for a while?
yeah, she comes to our Monday meetings quite often. Yeah.
What's she doing? What's she doing?
And
She's at McGill, I guess.
No, she's actually in Calgary.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a long way from Latvia.
Yeah. But she likes it. She's like, Canada's starting to feel like home.
Well, yes.
Aww.
Yeah.
In the winter, especially.
So, oh, pardon, Nick?
It's in the winter, especially.
All right. So that's it for today. Thanks again, Laura, for joining us and talking and sharing. Thanks to Nick for helping us do this podcast. And thanks, Emily, for joining. We'll have a new podcast posted Monday morning. Our upcoming podcasts can be found on concussiontalk.com, Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. You can find more information about our group on concussionmtl.com. Our peer-to-peer support group is free and open to everyone. We hold 4 weekly meetings on Zoom, and one of those are in French, but everyone is welcome. Doesn't matter your level of proficiency in French. Thanks for listening. Bye. HeadCheck Health bridges gaps in concussion care through simple, powerful technology. Join organizations like the Canadian Football League, Trek Factory Racing, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, Eastern Washington University, and Volleyball Canada, who rely on HeadCheck to improve communication and optimize care. Visit headcheckhealth.com for more. The music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.